Hey everybody, this is Steve Hosher with RazorGage, and I'm here to tell you about our latest software revision, version 7.9.5. This has some really nice little improvements, and I thought it merited us making a little video that just focused on these improvements. We still have RazorGage software tutorials 1 and 2 that cover all of the features of the RazorGage software. But I thought I'd do a little extra one here just to cover the improvements and extra features we have in version 7.9.5. To start with, on the main screen, and this actually came in a little bit before this revision, is the print dimension button. We had customers that wanted to be able to print the dimension that they're cutting. So if you are at position 25, I'm in incremental mode, 25 3/8. Then you wanted to print that dimension, you'd click this button and it would print a label. If you have our printer hooked up, or any Windows printer, it'll print the dimension that you're currently at. That way you can label a part anytime you want and make as many labels as you want. The next thing is the offset capability. We used to have 4 offsets in addition to the main offset, and now we have basically infinite numbers of offset, and you can define them with pictures. So if you wanted to put a drill next to your chop saw and be able to punch in 12 inches and either make a 12-inch part or drill a hole that is 12 inches from the end of the part, you can enter an offset for the drill or whatever secondary operation or whatever purpose you can come up with to use these for. Like I said, the number of offsets you can have is now infinite. You can see on this page 1 there is room for 12, and you can just keep clicking page plus, and go on until the hard drive gets filled up, which would be quite a while. And the way it works, the way you define them, is you just click Define and click a button, give it an offset distance, let's say 1, and label, we'll just call it offset 1 inch. And then we browse for an image, and you choose some image to put in there, save it, and now when you click this, it will change. It shows up on the main screen, so when you enter 25, the position it actually goes to will be 24. As you can see, it already put in a negative number for the current position because I typed in an offset of 1. So that is how the offset works. The next change, we'll go to the setup screen. Now since we have printer capabilities, at least limited printer capabilities, in many more screens than we used to, we moved part of the printer setup from auto list to settings, to the setup screen. So to enable printing, you click printer setup here in the setup screen. You check this to enable printing, you choose which printer you have. You can set the font size, the left margin, and the upper margin, and print a test label right from this screen. So I'm going to save that. The other change to this screen is that we have the controls test screen, which is not new to this revision, but I don't believe it's covered in the tutorials 1 and 2. If you have a tool safe sensor or an auto cycle that has a saw down and saw up, you can use this screen to see those inputs coming on and off. This tells you that the M drive is getting the input, it is communicating it to the PC, and the PC software is changing the little pilot lights here next to the inputs. That's a very handy thing when you're trying to troubleshoot tool safe sensor or something like that. And I'll just quickly click a few of these different screens, like AutoCalc. Notice it has print dimension. Auto pusher screen. It always had some printing capabilities, so nothing changed there. Work order screen now has print dimension. Preset screen has print dimension. Auto list has a different printing capability, and batch screen has print dimension. So those are the places where we've added this capability to just print the dimension. Okay, now the next modification I'd like to talk about is in the work order screen. Here you can see that offset shows up with the picture. We can now change from absolute mode to incremental mode within the work order screen. It used to be that you had to be in one of these two modes when you entered the work order screen, and we found that to be not intuitive, so we put these absolute mode and incremental mode buttons in the work order screen. And of course, absolute mode means you're going to use the RazorGage as a stop. Incremental mode means you are using it as a pusher, so the control buttons change just a little bit when you change from one mode to the other. The other thing we've added to the work order screen when you're in incremental mode is that you can create a work order file with length and quantity, and it will count the quantity down, and when that quantity of parts is cut, it'll move to the next length and begin cutting those. So you can basically kind of create your own cut list here, and you can create as many as the hard drive will hold. So to do it, all you do is, for example, length, we say we want some 12-inch parts, and we want 25, add it to the list, and there it is. Then we want some 14-inch parts, and we want 16 of those, we'll add that to the list. 58-inch parts, we want 45 of those, we'll add those to the list. Then we can save the list to the hard drive and return to the work order screen, open the work order. There's my test file, and here is the first line. We'll click part cut. If you have a tool safe sensor, this will happen automatically when you cycle the saw. Now I wish I hadn't put so many in there, and then you can see it went to the next line automatically when we cut all the parts in the first line item. So that's a nice little addition to the RazorGage software, and again, you can save as many of those on the hard drive as the hard drive will hold, and it should hold a whole bunch. So then we'll switch back to absolute mode. We've basically just moved some things around to make it a little bit neater, but other than that, the cut list is the ability to add quantity to the cut list, and its ability to count down are the primary things we've done on the work order screen. Preset screen has not changed, other than it has the offset with the offset picture. Auto list. Here is where the most exciting changes have been made. I have a cut list open. Now you can see that the offset function is still engaged. I'm just going to go back here and click none so that it gets rid of that. So in auto list, what we've got now, when you're in pusher mode, and again you can switch from stop mode to pusher mode with this button, you can have secondary operations. So if you want to, let's say you're a cabinet maker and you have one of the cabinet design softwares that outputs a cut list that has scribing information, and by scribing I mean joint location, where on a face frame the locations that all the joints are, and that that information is now in several cut lists because of the RazorGage pocket hole machine that has the scribing capability, and so many software vendors have added this to their cut list. So if you want to be able to just manually make a scribe line with a pencil, by mounting a square on your fence or some other way to make a straight perpendicular line, then you can add this option to your RazorGage. Get the cut list from your software vendor, and now you can see this cut list here has a column for manual scribes, and you can see these are numbers separated by the pipe symbol. So these are in incremental configuration, which means, for example, this one that has 3 ones. That means the first mark is 1 inch from the end, the second mark is 1 inch from the first mark, and the third mark is 1 inch from the second mark. And that's how you read these. And so to make that usable, we're going to go to Settings, Secondary Operations. We'll have an offset. Let's say you mount a square to the fence of your saw and you're going to push material through, and the distance of that square from the cut line is 8 3/16, which is the offset I've entered here. I've already told the software that the field containing the secondary locations is user field 5, and that the secondary locations are in incremental. You can see it gives an example, the 111. And then the message to be displayed will be use a pencil to make a scribe line. Now if you had a drill press in front of your chop saw and you wanted the operator to drill holes when it came to that point, you would change this message to drill a hole now, or something like that. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to click Done. I'll enter length of 96. And here is my layout. You can see the blue squares are the parts that are going to get cut, and the green lines are where the secondary operations are going to occur. Now I'm using the RazorGage demo software, which has some buttons on here that simulate messages that the RazorGage software receives from the motion controller. These wouldn't be in your software when you actually have a RazorGage, and you wouldn't have to click these buttons. I'll have to because I don't have a RazorGage hooked up to the software. So I'm going to click Load Out, and then this button that tells the software that it made it. So now I'm ready to start cutting. I click Move to First Position, got RM, and you can see that the first thing it's going to do is make a scribe line. That's because the distance from the scribe line to the end of the part is shorter than the distance of the square to the saw. So we're going to make a few scribe lines before we ever even make a trim cut. So it says use a pencil to make the scribe line, and I click OK, then saw done, move to next, got RM. Now it's at the next scribe line, and look, it's doing 3 scribe lines before it ever makes a cut. It might even make another one. Nope, there it's going to make the first cut, the trim cut. And so then I'll work through this, and we're going to make more scribe lines and cuts as we work through the board. So you'll come out with parts that have secondary operations all done, and you haven't had to use a tape measure, a pencil, and that kind of thing. And again, this works for any secondary operation. It can be a drill press, or some kind of a router, or anything you can think of, or as simple as just making a pencil mark. So that's an exciting aspect of the AutoList software. I'm going to cancel this run. You can see that the parts that we cut there still get crossed off the list because the quantity has been cut down to 0. The other things we have done, we've just neatened up the settings screen, just regrouped things and made them a little more clear. The label screen is slightly different because we got rid of some of the features and moved them to the setup screen. Again, for the full functionality of all these screens, watch RazorGage software tutorials 1 and 2. And that is about all I've got for the great improvements that we've made on RazorGage software version 7.9.5. We appreciate your interest and you're willing to spend the time to listen to this video. If you have any questions, call us at 515-232-3188 or go to our website, www.razorgage.com, and you can email us from there and download videos, download this demo software that I'm using, all kinds of things. So thanks a lot, and have a great day.